Hi everybody, Jonathan here with a new Twinmotion video, and we're going to be taking a look at the new interface of Twinmotion 2023. Now this was actually shown on a live stream on March the 7th, but just in case you missed it, I'm going to basically break down the video and the live stream just for you with my thoughts and my commentary on the exciting features of the new interface of Twinmotion 2023 coming very soon. I do hope you enjoy the video. I'm getting very excited, and I'm sure you are too if you're Twinmotion users. But if you're new around here, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video. It really helps and it's really appreciated. I'll be making a ton more videos as soon as the new version drops, so I look forward to seeing you then. But anyway, let's enjoy the video and let's take a look at the new interface of Twinmotion 2023. So for those of you who want to watch the original live stream, head over to the Twinmotion YouTube channel and you'll see Tian Zhao, Martin Krausman and also Colin Smith talking about Twinmotion and basically the new interface. But I'm going to give you my thoughts on breakdown, the sort of video if you like, and give you my overview and my thoughts. I've been a Twinmotion user for years and I'm super excited to see what they've done with this new interface. So let's get started on the video, and I do hope you enjoy. Okay, so the very first thing is there was a little introduction which was both teased on social media, where basically Twinmotion showed off the original interface from 2010 and then progressed onto the 2016 version, which you can see looking a bit more similar to the current setup we currently have. And then also just a quick reminder of what the current interface looks like in 2019, which is basically the interface that we've currently got in 2022 and the current version. Now you can notice the buttons are pretty big and it's got this sort of simplicity about it, but there definitely was some areas of the interface that I think can benefit from this dramatic improvement that we're going to now see. Here is your first glimpse at the new 2023 workspace, and you can see that there's a few elements that are quite similar. We've got the libraries over on the left and we've got the scene graph over on the right, but there's also quite a few changes down to the dock at the bottom and the new sort of selection tools at the top. What you can also notice is that the starting scene is radically different. And what basically you can notice here is that it's a fairly neutral scene without that sort of city background that was never appropriate. There's also basically a kind of starting base. So this is the place that your model will import when it's basically exported from your CAD software at 000. And basically you can also notice there's a 1 meter grid, so that is actually quite useful in just checking the scale of the model as it's imported and the fact it's actually sat at 000 in your Twinmotion file. Now there's another nice aspect here. When it imported before, you might have noticed this, but it was never in the center of the screen. And what happened was the camera on previous Twinmotion was actually directly above the 0 point. So when the model imported, you didn't see it. But now you'll notice that when you import the model, your actual starting camera is actually front facing onto that center, that origin. So it means that you always see the model as opposed to it being sort of disappeared and you're having to go off and find it again. So I think this is a really nice improvement to the new starting scene, and definitely quite refreshing to not have to kind of, change that background immediately. Now I guess most of the time you're always going to bring in things like HDRIs and sort of start building up your own kind of backgrounds as well. But yeah, definitely a nice improvement to the starting scene. Now you notice the bottom dock now has import, materials, populate, media and export. And if you think about it, this is really the different stages of a typical workflow from starting, importing, right through to the exporting. i.e. you bring your project in, you do some materials, you populate it, then you set up some media and then you go and export. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the importing process. One really nice new feature not all of you may be aware of is you can actually import multiple files, even though there might be different types of files, all in one click. So basically if you select multiple files, you can then choose whether it's to collapse by material or keep hierarchy, all the usual settings. And basically a couple of dialogues pop up, but you'll notice that all of those files imported in a single action really, which is a really nice little tip. Okay, so this is the sort of demonstration scene that Martin was showing from the Twinmotion 2023 live stream. And you can see it's just kind of starting out with a fairly sort of interesting little architectural element there, but really no context at all. So it'd be interesting to see how he develops this. Now you can kind of see we've got a starting ground, a starting landscape, and the scene graph can basically be sort of managed, and you can slide that panel up and down to kind of expand the size of it. So basically, I think this really is nice and clean. You definitely get a bit more vertical space on the dock. Previously, the dock at the bottom was taking up a lot of space. There are a few elements that are the same. You've got the full screen button there. You've also got the eye icon in the top right corner of the viewport, where basically that will control things like the lighting and those sort of pedestrian mode and drone mode and so on as well. Another aspect that's pretty similar is the libraries. Doesn't look like there's really any changes here that I can see. I'm sure there's a few new sort of materials and things coming on we'll talk about later. But basically the same process, you drag and drop into the viewport. However, you will notice that once the materials are dragged in, you do get a really nice big preview over in the properties panel on the right hand side. And the great thing is now all of the settings for the materials are available. Previously on Twinmotion, one of the criticisms was that the sort of process was very almost like going into different folders or different settings or lots of more options, and you know that while it was simplistic, you really did have to know where these were. But now with the new properties dialog, you can basically access all of these things like color, UV, roughness, metallic, all of those things, and it only takes a click on the kind of tab to show or hide it and open it up. So I really like the way you can kind of focus on the bits that really matter to you. Okay, so you can see in the demonstration just a few new materials being dragged on, and there's a really cool way that you can basically just color those down and just sort of change the intensity of those colors just by clicking on that color wheel. I do wish that that wouldn't pop up in the middle of the screen, but I'm hoping that will become docked at some point as well, the color changer that we'll see. You can change things like the UV mapping, and then when you need sort of even more detail, you can basically click into details, and here you can do things like the offsetting, the stretching, and even, you know, things like animation and speed. And that's something I've used before for things like rivers as well, to show water flowing. So all the usual settings are there, but the main hero settings are the ones that are visible until you open up the details panel and then see those additional settings. So definitely a very much neater interface for the materials side of things. But in terms of the actual sort of functionality, most of that is going to be quite familiar for you. So apart from the location, everything will be quite similar. So the drag and drop of materials is exactly the same. The properties panel is different, albeit in that it's basically similar operation, just in different location. Now, one thing that has changed quite a lot is the materials dock is now down at the bottom instead of being sort of tucked away in the bottom left corner. And I really like this new materials dock. You can click on the button and pop it up and down as needed. And another super useful feature is the fact that materials that are used in the scene are now shown with a little indicator, and any unused materials are not basically indicated. And what's nice is that means that you can keep them, or you can identify them and remove them as well. So you can see any materials that were in the scene but aren't required anymore are basically not required. Now, a little tip here, if you select all of them and click the delete key, Twinmotion won't delete all the materials, it'll only delete unused materials. So it's a really good way to purge the scene and reduce the file size. Just also clean up the project just so you can really see what actual materials you've used so far. Okay, so next up is taking a look at the Populate panel after the materials. Okay, and again, this would be something that you would do naturally in the next stage of the workflow. Particularly populate your project with sort of trees and plants and perhaps people and cars, that sort of thing. Twinmotion has an amazing library of foliage and trees, so it's absolutely fantastic for visualizing landscape, and that's one of the things that I personally love about the software. You know, my architectural rendering software can cope with the building materials really quite well. As you know, I use Vectorworks as my main design tool, but in terms of kind of putting in nice trees and plants, you just simply can't beat Twinmotion in my view. So not only is it actually extremely fast, it's actually very, very enjoyable. You notice that you basically just select those vegetation items, you can mix and match between the folders, get some rocks and bushes, and a few grasses, things like that. But basically when you're ready, you basically drop them into the Dropbox. You can then basically click onto the paint tool and basically literally just go into the viewport and just adjust your brush size and just paint, a bit like 3D Photoshop almost. Now you've got to be a bit careful with your brush size. The really nice thing is you can post adjust afterwards, simply to select a certain item in the Dropbox and then change the density. Okay, so then you've also got the scatter tool. Now the brush tool is good for certain things, but for big areas, the scatter tool is unbelievable and unbeatable. Now a really nice little tip here is you can actually drag the same tree into the Dropbox a couple of times. And in order to get a couple of sort of mixtures, you can basically adjust the age and so on of those second ones before you actually click onto the scatter tool. So just going to sort of add a few more, I think, a few more elements to this Dropbox here. Maybe one comment for me is you have to drag across the screen, which is a little weird, but I'm sure that, you know, once you get used to that, it's fine. I love the resizable Dropbox, I think that's cool. And then when you're ready, with a single click, you can click on that entire material or landscape and wow, boom, look at that, instant forest. And the scatter tool is just unbeatable. You know, this is just incredible, the amount of time it's saved. And then you can really go in and edit the build-ups as well. So another really nice little aspect is the ability to colorize materials, and that's no different from before. However, you'll notice that if you open up the details panel, there's a lot more control. Now you have complete control over things like the saturation, the gamma, the lift, and the gain, and these headline features also open up to give you additional controls to the RGB values as well. So this really does make the sort of PBR materials a lot more easy to kind of get how you want them to look. It was a little bit crude just colorizing them before. It was quick, but it didn't really kind of give you always the tones and the colors that you were hoping for. So the final element of the Populate is the grab urban control, where you can grab context, and that basically is similar to before. Now, one big change is the fact that the scene itself has an ambient setting. So this is how you can adjust all the lighting and things like the weather and things for the overall sort of scene before you actually kind of go and create some specific media, which would all have their own ambient settings and camera settings as well. So I really do like the resizable dock here. I think the is a very nice sort of aspect, the fact you can kind of have the scene open, but also the ambience as well. You can even close the scene if you do want to and just work on the sort of other things like the properties and the ambience. So as well as things like the environment, you've got access to the camera, the rendering, and also the FX. Now, when you drag in a specific object and that object is obviously selected, the property panel just automatically changes to give you any options for that specific object. Like in this case, you can see resizing the tree and basically the parameters of that tree. Now when you click back onto the ambience, you'll get access to all of the kind of scene parameters as well, and you can just basically, if you're running out of space, you can put a click onto that little side panel, and basically now you've got a 2-column view. Now this is super interesting. I like the way you can do this. It means that you can manage your scene, but you can also manage your ambience as well, and basically all the other aspects in one go. So overall, I think what we're seeing is the new Twinmotion interface is just so much more customizable, and basically you can kind of find an ideal workflow that suits you. Previously, you really did have to go in and out of lots of kind of options and mores and sort of sub-menus, and now all of that is kind of just up front. And you can keep it as simple as you want, or you can open up those details, and basically things like depth of field, you can open that up when needed. So another nice little tip here is if you hold the control key down, you can actually click on multiple tabs, and basically you can see a camera and the FX opened at the same time. So you can either click one of them, or you can click multiple items just by holding control down and having all of them. Then you can basically scroll up and down and access every aspect of your ambience and scene. So yeah, I'm really pleased with the new interface. It's still got the beauty and simplicity of before, but a lot more user-friendly and a lot more kind of rapid. I do like the viewport size as well, and the fact that you can actually expand that and have a really nice big viewport. Now, just on that note then, if you go into your preferences, you'll notice that the appearance has been overhauled as well. And now you've got the interface scale. So basically you can adjust that scale depending on the kind of monitor you have. Some of us have 2K, I've got a 4K monitor, and basically you can set Twinmotion up to suit that monitor and also your kind of eyesight level as well. And that is definitely something that I know professional users will really be pleased with, because I think maybe the buttons were a bit oversized before for some people, and basically you kind of lost a lot of working space. Now, another really nice aspect is the ability to scale viewport resolution. Now what this means is you can essentially scale up the amount of pixels on the real-time or the path tracing rendering. And really the impact of this is, okay, the image quality on the preview won't be quite as good, but basically it's going to be 2 or 3 times faster. So you're going to get a dramatic increase in speed, but you're still going to be able to work very effectively to actually kind of understand the preview. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that impacts my workflow and speeds things up. Now, if you look in the top left corner of the screen, you'll notice a little home button that you can click on, and at any time you can now access the new sort of templates, if you like, that Twinmotion is going to ship with. And apparently this is just the start. So we've got some nice external ones, product design and sort of more kind of interior design as well. But yeah, I think this is just the beginning of a wide range of templates as well. Now, as you know, if you've been a Twinmotion user for a while, you'll know that they are very good at giving you regular updates on new materials and new libraries. And in this new version, there's some new glass materials and things like car paints as well, just a few of the many new materials and new libraries that are added. But I just really wanted to focus on this for a minute. I love the way that in the path tracing mode, you get the sort of coloured glass actually projecting its colour onto the walls and things like that. Okay, so now you'll notice the media dock is basically, instead of being the top left, bottom left corner, is now right at the bottom. And when you click that, it pops open. Now, pretty much this is the same in terms of creating images. So you simply click to create the image and move the camera around and then update it as before. What is different though is the fact that you've got a properties panel over on the right hand side where you can adjust everything there. You don't need to click into more and basically go through lots and lots of sub-menus to find what you're looking for. So you've got easier access to toggle between those images and basically work away. So creating a video is really the same process as before. You simply click to create a series of keyframes. You can just adjust your view and get a nice kind of little frame up, and then when you're ready, click on the plus sign, kind of move the camera a little bit and essentially basically click on the plus again. So as long as you've got 2 keyframes, you can basically animate between them and play that video. You can adjust the time and the speed and all these things as well. But what's really new about this aspect is previously you can only really adjust 1 keyframe at a time, but now you can actually click settings or select both clips, and you can adjust globally things like the lighting and materials and weather for all those clips at the same time. Now this is definitely a nice improvement and will save a lot of time. If you do want to do things like time lapse, then clearly you can just adjust each image separately as well. So once you've set up some of your media, of course, the final aspect is to move on to the export tab. So when you click the export tab, again, the options pop up in the properties dialog on the right hand side, but everything is available for you to kind of open up all the different panels. You can select the images, video and all the other things that you've actually created. Lots of details are sub-contained in there, but the main hero and headline features are all available just sort of right in front of you. So definitely a lot cleaner and much easier to kind of get around to exporting. Now, of course, one of the beauties of Twinmotion is the amazing speed. If you've used it before, it puts a smile on your face every time. How fast it is to export video and still images at super high quality. I mean, you can export 8K or even 16K images as well. So you'll notice that when an object is selected, there's now a new sort of transform panel called XYZ, and you've basically got all the object sort of location, rotation, scaling and size included. But what's really nice is you've now got complete control over the camera position. So you can actually see exactly where your camera is, and obviously you can type in coordinates there. So this means that you can now finally match the camera position that you wanted from your CAD software, and absolutely I'm very chuffed with that. Now over on the bottom left corner you'll see, just by the library, the old statistics panel, which looks really nice. That seems sensible. You know, it's kind of popped up in an area of the screen that is less important. Previously, it was in a place where it actually took up quite a bit of space when you needed to modify your scene. Now, in terms of things like quality settings, all of that is very quick and adjustable just by clicking the quality setup or popping into the preferences. Now, I'm not sure what the improvements and rendering speed will be like. We'll have to look at that once the new version comes out. But yeah, very excited to see how this version plays out. Also, definitely going to start to play around with these sort of new home scenes and templates and things like that as well. But of course, you know, there's nothing to stop you setting up your own templates and opening those as starting scenes. Well, everybody, what do you think of the new Twinmotion version? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get a bit of debate going. Do you think it's cool? Are you looking forward to using it? I know that I am for sure. Now, I just want to draw your attention, if you're a Vectorworks user, like many of my clients will be, basically you can get Twinmotion for half price until the end of March. There's a Vectorworks promotion on where you can snap that up. So do give me a call or drop me an email. I'll be very pleased to help with that. I'm also going to include my 322-page Revolutionise Your Rendering with Twinmotion ebook or PDF. So that's a very generous offer, half price Twinmotion and a free book. So look forward to hearing from you soon and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.